Hello, welcome to Ephemera Files by Tommy, and today we are going to do the cover, at least the beginning of it. It will not be the finished cover. That will be another video because I need to wait until all of my pages are in before I do the final cover so I can make sure it's all cohesive and coherent and all of those words. So here is the book that we are working on, and I have chosen a couple of papers, a piece of fabric to make my pen pocket with. I am going to do protective corners on here because this cover is old. And I will have to take the cover apart right here because it is just very weak on the inside and I'd prefer to not have it fall apart. So I will just take it apart and I will repurpose the spine cover as a bookmark or a tuck or something inside of the journal. So let's get started. I apologize. I started to work on this without starting the video, and I didn't show you how to remove the book block from the cover, but it's pretty simple. I'm going to turn the book like this, and it was connected right there. You can see those threads, and that is where I cut. And when I cut, this was a hollow back spine, meaning that this was not connected to the spine itself. And I just took my X-Acto knife. It's not an X-Acto, it's a We Are Memory Keepers knife. And I very carefully just followed down the line until I got to the bottom, and then I repeated the process on the back page, and you can see some of the threads there even better. That's where it was joined. You can also see through the spine cover, and that's why I'm taking it apart. I am going to keep the inside, the book block, because it's got all these goodies and things in there. The little handwritten, this book belongs to, and it has some illustrations. These are just fancy letters, except for this book is 1905, 1906, 1906. And that's an M in there, but you can't really tell it unless you look really closely. So I'm going to have to do some additions to that. And then there are some phrases in here that I liked, so I will go through and I will cut those out as well to use throughout the journal, because I do like to use little quotes and phrases in my journals. So we're going to set this to the side, and let's see, that is the pen, and that's not going to happen just yet. These I believe will happen last. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use for my cover. It is, oh, I should have grabbed a ruler. Here we go. It is 1 and slightly over ½ inches. So 1½ inches, and that's actually a pretty good size for a journal. I tend to make them really fat. This helps me to control myself. So, and it is also wider than that spine, which I was going to have to take off anyway, so that works out well. So I am going to very carefully split the spine from the cover. You can see the light through the holes. It will not take much to do this, but I still want to do it gently. And so I'm going to start here. And I'm so nervous about tearing this up that I'm not even pushing very hard. And if you don't get all of the threads, you just go back. It's not a big deal. And you just take your time, be very careful if you're wanting to save your journal. If you're wanting to save your cover for your journal, excuse me. Because I do want to use this spine. I do like it. I think it has a lot of interest. I am being way too careful. I know. I am sorry. I apologize. Now this one will be a little bit harder because there's less to hold on to over here. But you do the same thing. I'm holding this tight without, hopefully without tearing it or yanking it or doing anything else to mess it up. My goodness. Okie doke. Almost. I think it's because it's doubled down at the bottom that it's a little bit more difficult to get through. And at the top, of course. All right. So there's my spine. Can you see that? I don't know if it'll focus or not, but it says Mildred. It's got some pretty embossing here. It's got Holmes right here. And at the bottom it says Dillingham, which I think is the publisher. And so here is the back of the spine. Now, there are some little paint splotches on here. They were on there when I got it. And I'm not going to worry about taking them off because by the time I get done with the cover, they will probably be covered. So what I am going to do is I am going to lay the cover right here, aligning it with this bottom flap. And blueberry Cheerios are the bomb, and I can eat them. And so there you go, a little promo, I guess. Is it advertising? Will they pay me for saying that? Probably not. Okay, so I am going to trace around the cover of the book instead of relying on measuring, because sometimes your measuring is just slightly off, no matter how hard you try. Okay, so there's the front, and then I'm going to turn it over, and the reason I aligned it with this flap here was because I knew it would be aligned with this flap on the back. That way I don't have to worry about missing my mark. And I'm going to, right here, set it on this fold and on that fold. And once again, I am going to trace. And I've had covers that were just slightly different front to back. And I think maybe it was because it was so old. I don't know. All right, so there we have our lines. And so now I am going to cut on those lines, and I'll fast forward through this bit so that you don't have to watch me cutting. Okay, so here's our cover. Oh look, I cut off that little flap and there's a perfect little tab. I will probably use that in the journal. I love it when that happens. So this will be here. Had an extra little piece of paper. This will fit right on here, just like that. And this will go right on there, just like that. Yes, that looks good. All right, so first I want to cover the inside. Sorry, I had a brain freeze there. I found this paper, and I think that it's so cute. And it's the Paper Studio. And if you want to find it, it says Vintage Black Toile. And I know that I want to cut it in half right down the center. And I have already marked on here, right there where I want to cut the top off. And then I know that I need 7 inches after that. I'm going to get my paper cutter out because I really cannot cut a straight line. I can get it to look like it's almost straight. But yes, it's not going to be straight. So since I have already marked on here, and I always lose the mark, so I have to look again. Sorry about my head. I have to get really close. There we go. And I'll cut that part off. I'll put that back into my pan to use. Now, I want to make sure that I have this the right length. Once again, the cereal box may be a little bit off, so I don't want to depend on that. So here, I'm going to cut that off right there. And there's still nice little seams right there that I can use in the journal. And I need to cut this exactly in half. And it is 8 1/2, so that'll be 4 1/4. And those are going to go in there. And yes, I know this is not covered in here because I'm going to do something else. But right now I just want to get these papers in place. I'll set that to the side. And then this paper is going to be at the bottom. It's going to create a pocket for information and a pocket in the back. So I know that I have already marked this. I just need to find my mark. I tried to be a little bit prepared. There's my mark. And once again, I need to cut that exactly in half, and it is 8 1/2, so we'll go to 4 1/4. And now we have our pockets. Okay, we're done with this for just a bit. Now, I know that I'm going to have a pocket over here, and I am going to make it from this, I think it's voile, V-O-I-L-E. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I want to make sure my pen pocket is right over here and that it's deep enough to hold the pen without the pen falling out. So I think if I line up the edge of this hem with the top of this pocket, I think that that will be a really good size. And I'm going to be sewing around these on the machine. So right now, like I said, I am just trying to line it up. I think I am going to, I can't pin it. Yes, I can pin it right there though. All right, we'll just run this pin through there. So that it'll sit like that. And I'm going to take just a little bit of glue so that I know all this stuff is lined up where it's supposed to be. I like to use Fabri-Tac. It is my favorite liquid glue. And so on the cover, I am not rounding any of the corners because on the inside, pretty much all of my pages are going to be torn edges. But on the cover, I am going to just keep them straight. mostly because it'll make it easier for me doing this part. Okay, we'll let that dry. Do the same on this pocket. And I am going to take these pieces to my sewing machine and sew around the edges. I'm going to give the glue just a minute to dry, but I'm also going to, on this side, be sewing the pin pocket. So I am going to turn the paper over, holding my pin pocket right there, and I'm going to run a line of glue right here. Fabri-Tac does not mess with my sewing machine. And a little bit of glue right there because I'll be taking that up as well. But this voile is thin enough that the Fabri-Tac should go through both layers. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal. I at least have one of them where it's supposed to be. Okay, and I am going to hold that for just a moment to make sure it all adheres. And then I will come back and trim off the excess before I sew. And I'm just needing it to hold it there long enough for me to sew it down. I don't need it to be, you know, perfectly held there for years and years and years, because that's what the stitches are going to do. All right, so I'm going to take that pin out. And I am going to take a couple of my little tiny clothespins just to hold that over so it's not flopping around while I'm trying to sew. I am going to sew around all the edges. Not all of it will end up showing, but I'm not really worried about that. Let's cut off some of this excess. I need to get my scissors sharpened, but I haven't been able to go into a Joann's yet. Although I did get brave, and I went to Tuesday morning because my Tuesday morning as of now is closed in my location, and it made me so sad. I went in there the day before yesterday, and they were down to, I think, 5 of the 4-foot sections that had anything on them, and a couple of tables. And I'm going to do a haul. I don't usually do hauls, but I'm going to do that haul. Let's see, I need to put a little glue here because that's not going to stay unless I do. And I got brave enough to go to a Goodwill. I'm getting so big. Of course, I wore my mask and I stayed away from people, and the employees at Goodwill, I think, are told that if a customer comes into an aisle, they are to leave that aisle, because that happened much of the time that I was there. So that's good to know that some places are being very considerate of the needs of their customers. All right, I'm going to sew these pockets around the edges, not these pockets, these papers around the edges, and then we will go on. All right, so these are now sewn together, at least the pocket to the page, and they will be put on here. And I am going to, number one, I need to cover the spine. And this is some felt, and it's a really good color because it just kind of blends into the background. And so I'm going to cut let's see, I need to cut in the spot where the pockets or the pages no longer cover. I need to at least go there. So I'm going to cut right here. I'm going to try to straighten that a little bit on that side. And then I will glue this down here. And not only does it cover the part that these pages don't cover, it strengthens the spine, especially on the part where it bends. And it strengthens the spine where you will be sewing the signatures in and out. So I am going to get this glued. And there are a lot of globs there, but that doesn't matter because I go through and I do this and it knocks all the globs down. Rub the excess on my palm, swipe it off. And then we just lay this down. That extra glue over there doesn't matter. It's going to get covered up. Smooth that on there as tightly as I can. And then I will turn this over and cut off the excess, not access. Goodness, excess. Whoops, got a little bit of the cardboard in there, but that's okay. Not okay on my scissors, which needs sharpened. All right, so we have this part going. Got a nice strong spine for the cover. This will be going there, but I have another step first. All right, I got this fabric from the same lady. Matter of fact, it was in this package where I ordered the sari silks, and this bag that I'm going to put the journal in, this was part of the that was in there. So I am going to, I had this figured out. Okay, yes, that was it. I'm going to be cutting off one panel. I'm trying very carefully to stay in the open work, which is the bigger spaces that just have a thread connecting the design to the next design. And I'm going to, whoops, that's the wrong side. This is the right side. That will be covering up that part. And it is going to overlap this, but loosely. Just like that. I'm having trouble getting this lined up for some reason. So there we go. That's what the inside of our cover is going to look like. So I am going to go through and I'm going to glue this all down. Let's see. Am I going to glue this all down? Am I at that point? I'm going to glue this all down except around the very edges. Ooh, see, my sewing machine just is having fits. It looks good on this side. That's the side that's showing, but oh my goodness. I don't know how to do that. So I am going to glue down the pockets onto the cardboard here. I'm going to align these edges and glue it down, and some of it will go over the felt, which is what I want. And I think I meant for that to be the front, but it's too late now, so it'll be all right. So I'm going to put glue on the back of here, not out here. I can come back and glue under those edges if I decide not to put lace or something there. But it'd be kind of hard to come back and pry it all up if I glued it all down and then decided, oh, I want to tuck lace in there. Well, too bad for you. You've already glued it down, Tommy. So I'm going to do it this way. Just smooth that all down. And I actually will come back right now and put glue under this side because it's not going to have anything tucked under it. Okay, now let's do this one. And I need to remember that this side I need to glue down as well. So I'll put my fingers over here. Look at that gummy mess. Ugh. I've got to figure out what's going on. My machine didn't do that until a few times ago that I used it. And by doing the sewing first, it also tucks the edges of the pocket between the paper and the cardboard cover that secures that pen pocket very well. There we go. And now we will glue this down, and I'm not going to glue the edges down on this. Let's see, it's got a bit of a stain on it. That actually adds a little to the character, I think. So here we go. Yes, see, I covered her up and I did not intend to. So I may do that just a little off center, because you're not going to really know it is off center. Yep, that works. I'm going to leave it like that so that I don't forget where I have it aligned. And I'm going to glue here along the edges. It is an open work, but it's also going to be a lot covered up because it's going to be behind the signatures. But I still want it to be pretty. I want my journal to be pretty everywhere that it can be pretty, because that's just how I roll. So I am going to pat that down. All right, and there is the inside of our cover. That was our project for this video. On the outside, it's still all about the blueberry Cheerios. Yum, yum. Oh, I may have to go get a bowl. And we will address the outside of the journal soon. But it will look a lot like that, at least for now. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are getting what you need, and I hope that you are remembering to be kind always. Bye.